Good morning. At this time of year, I'm starting to think about my bees and feeding them. They're not necessarily starving. This type of feed stimulates them into brood production, making more babies. In the spring, that's what you want, is to get a jump and get a big population of field bees that would be ready of the right age and available to forage for food when the time comes. So let's just take a look while this drips at a chart on bees and figure out how long that takes, and then we'll look at a calendar. This chart here has like everything you ever need to know about beekeeping, where you could look real quick. So let's just think about this a minute. Suppose we could stimulate that queen out there in that box to start really laying eggs, starting, say, a few days after we feed it. Because when you feed the hive, then the queen gets better nutrition and she'll lay more eggs, theoretically. Especially if you've got pollen in the feed, or that pollen substitute stuff. That's the powder in the mix. I'm giving them honey mixed with I forget what the product's called. I'll say it later. I'll show the bag. But I'm feeding them to stimulate this, so that later I'll have more. See, so suppose you wanted to say, I'll need a lot of worker bees and how it works and how long it takes. Suppose you wanted, this to turn into a worker, and it does. It takes 21 days before it hatches out, but there's more. On day one of its life, it sure has a job, but it's just a baby, and it doesn't go outside at all. It does this for a couple days, it does this for a couple days, it does this for a couple days. All the meanwhile, it's like doing other tasks within the hive, like carrying out dead bees and this and that. There's a lot of different jobs within the hive, and they all fulfill that role for a brief period of time at some point in their life. That's what's really hard to really get a handle on in bees, is that they move up. So there's this dynamic going on within the hive, and if you upset the dynamic, then the whole thing could kind of disintegrate and starts to decline, let's say. In general, you see a lot of growth, especially in spring, and that's what I'm trying to do, stimulate a little more, so that when nectar starts flowing, I'll have lots of bees. So you got 3 weeks to make a bee. But then it does other jobs for, guess what, 3 weeks before it ever goes outside of the hive and turns into a field bee. So by the time it's a field bee, it's 6 weeks old. That's why I have to plan so far ahead, see? And I'm starting to make some bee food. It's because, let's say, 6 weeks from now, that's the middle of March. It's completely possible that maple trees could start to bloom in mid-March, or late March, or early April. See, you don't know. It's hard to tell, really. The weather here it can be cold and snow, and then warm up, and then the trees bloom, just like that. And then it snows, and it messes the trees all up, messes the bees all up. It's just part of life. You can't control the weather, but you can help the bees to make more bees by feeding them, which is what I'm about to do. I don't think I'm going to give them any for maybe a week or two. Like I could start thinking about it. It'd be nice to have a lot of bees around April 1st. I have in the past started feeding my bees in the middle of March, which I think is a little late. I don't know, but either way, if you give them this stuff, they make lots of bees pretty doggone quick. Because they're probably already doing it anyway. Because my hives are stocked and full of nectar and pollen. I kind of keep them in great shape. They either live or not. So I just need to kind of go check and see what's alive and what isn't alive, and then feed the survivors. And then be ready for swarms, and then I can divide and multiply. That's the plan. And that's why I need to feed. So we're back here. I put a pound of what's called Ultra Bee. I got this from Man Lake. It was not cheap. It's a 50-pound bag I had shipped a couple years ago. Haven't used it all yet. A pound of the stuff with a pound of honey. Let's mix it up and then see what it looks like. Takes a while, but eventually it gets kind of like gooey. And then I'll use an ice cream scoop to it's really starting to look like it could use a little more honey. I was trying to make 2 pounds, but I don't really know what ratio I've used. It's been a while since I did any of this. I'm trying to figure it out as I go. I think it needs a little more honey. Let's give it another pound. Might ask, where do I get this honey? I have sometimes honey that's a little darker and not quite fit for sale. That's what I use for this. Usually it's what I haven't sold. So I've got for us 2 pounds of honey and 1 pound of I think that's a little too much honey. We'll see though, it's close. You end up with it being where you scoop it. And the bees will eat it because it's honey and pollen substitute that's specifically designed to stimulate bees into making more bees. It's a spring Kickstarter, so to speak. That looks a little thin. I could probably add a little more powder, but this isn't bad. It's not straining the mixture. I don't really want to wear out my wife's nice KitchenAid mixture doing this sort of thing. So I make small little batches. And this looks about right. It's like peanut butter. In this cool weather, but in the beehives it's pretty warm, it might just, you want it to kind of drip down, so to speak, into between the frames where they can get it, but not be so drippy that it goes to the bottom. Like peanut butter is about right. It sure smells good. But that's what I do to feed my bees. Have a great day. God bless you. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.